Talking Tuesday. It's what we do. We just sit around, smoke a pound, and talk about what we do in the cannabis world. We gon' let you know how the business go on a brand new show. Talking Tuesday. Show you how to do it right.
Yo. Welcome to Token Tuesday, the podcast here where we talk about real cannabis topics with real cannabis players.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And what'll impact you as a consumer, as an investor, and as an owner and operator.
That's right.
And so, we going to jump right on into this. I got Keith to my right, left, and Marco to my right.
Yep.
And, I'm going to do a little call to action real quick. Like it before we get too far up in the podcast, I'm going to let y'all know. Push the subscribe button on your YouTube, California Cannabis WC.
West Coast.
Also, follow us on Instagram, California Cannabis WC, and that's Posh Delivery. Also, follow California Cannabis on Twitter and Facebook. California Cannabis WC on Twitter and Facebook. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to jump into it in episode 9 right here, live and in effect. We're going to, talk about some laws today. We're going to talk about the legalities of cannabis, and we're going to jump right into it. But before we get all off into that, baby, you know what I'm saying? Come down to California Cannabis. Make sure y'all get y'all one of our little cups. Starbucks ain't the only one popping. We popping too.
Double wall.
You know what I'm saying? We popping like popcorn, baby, when it's 100 and some degrees on a stove. You know what I'm saying? We popping just like that. Also, I wanted to just get y'all to look at one of our strains that we got out right now, Kush. Man, so y'all remember last time I had the shirt on that said, "A friend who gives weed is a friend indeed." Well, I'm still that friend that gives weed. And this time, we going with the Kush. Today, we going to do hey, look, it's coming. Kush, pound bag, because that's how we do. Y'all heard it, Token Tuesday, while we smoking on a pound. Gonna get you something up out of there. You know what I'm saying?
A friend
of the Kush. Hey, this is the Kush dedicated to me. Kush. You feel me? And they gonna let us know during the podcast how this Kush really do. Hey, this is old school. Just so y'all know. Oh, and let me give y'all a little tip. Back here a few years ago, Snoop was talking about that orange. And he was like, man, I don't want that tangerine bullshit. I want that orange. That orange. That orange. The real OG 1990 orange. Y'all know what I'm talking about if y'all was back in them days. So, hey, that's what we got going on right now. Some of that orange, that good, that Crondon, that Chronic, that Endo. You know what I'm saying? I got 5 on it. Messing with that Endo weed. I got 5 for you youngsters. Y'all don't be knowing about that Endo. That Endo right here. All that little candy and all that other crap y'all be talking about. Nah, this where it's at right here. This the real original Kush.
Hey, Virgil, want another name for this Orange Crush?
Orange Kush. Orange. They called it that. The streets nicknamed it Orange. So if you wasn't popping in the streets, you wasn't popping. Hey. You know what I'm saying? This orange was popping in the streets because the streets was calling for that orange. And guess what? I had it. Hello. So come down to your local California Cannabis location. Look for this cylinder right here on top, Kush. That's the Kush cylinder right there on the top. Y'all see it? Looking real good. Oh, well, let me give y'all just a little something about this Kush and how it was created. Just to real briefly jump into it while everybody packing their pipe and getting it together. If you look at the cylinder on Kush was a strain that one of my partners, Danny, and they call him Rockers, so y'all know Rockers. If y'all Jamaican, y'all know who Rockers is. Anyway, he brought me some seeds back from Jamaica, and I took it and crossed it with the CC, the CCOG, and I came up with Kali Kush. Now, the cold part about it is if you look on the cylinder on this side, y'all see stuff of the city that I was doing my thing in. That's the Compton Drive-In. That's the Martin Luther King Memorial, and that's the Compton Courthouse. You see that? I got that on there. And then when you turn to this side, that's the other side. You know what I'm saying? The Jamaican roots right there from the strain, Kali Kush. California side, Compton, and then the Jamaican side. Everything we do is with a purpose. We don't do nothing haphazardly, just so y'all know. So anyway, we're going to jump right into these laws and stuff and the legality that surrounds cannabis that we are always, kind of sometimes in confusion about.
So as we discuss this business introduction to cannabis entrepreneurship, this episode will offer a fantastic opportunity to delve into the critical aspects of launching and running a successful cannabis business. Additionally, we will discuss the federal and local laws that govern cannabis business. So, Virgil, let me start out by asking this.
Federal and local laws that govern cannabis business. Y'all need to understand the importance of federal laws and local laws governing cannabis business. Because let's just be straight up. Federal laws say cannabis is illegal.
That's right.
In case y'all didn't know that. Cannabis is a Schedule I drug still in the Schedule I category.
Right.
And when you look up a lot of Schedule I drugs, you'll be shocked to know that cannabis is a part of that category. But will shock you even more so when you look up Schedule II.
There's cocaine.
You gonna say, dang, Schedule like cannabis is more than Schedule II? Like how so? It's gonna make you really, take a step back and say, damn. But even to this day, as you are freely walking into your local dispensary, or you roaming through your grow, or you perusing through your manufacturing plant, or as you going through your distribution warehouse, you still dealing with a Schedule I drug. You still purchasing a Schedule I drug.
At a federal
you still
level.
are selling and smoking and distributing, manufacturing, cultivating the Schedule I drug. And we don't even think about that anymore because legalization has taken over our mindset of Schedule I and the illegality behind it. But that's where we wanted things to go. Now we need our federal government to come along with where we are. We keep in mind, cannabis in the state of California has been legal since 1996.
Right.
The Compassionate Use Act, the CUA, the Compassionate Use Act was brought in 1996, and the state Senate bill SB 420 in 2000. So you got to understand, since 1996, because people say, oh man, I thought Denver went legal first. No, Denver did not go legal first. Oh man, I thought Oklahoma or some other state went legal first, or Washington. No, dummies, California. We the first to ever legalize for medical purposes. Well, Colorado was the first to go recreational. So what? Medical, recreational. We still got medical and recreational today, and it ain't no difference between the two.
Yeah.
Because the medical patients still use their medical cannabis as when they're in a recreational mood.
Yes.
In a recreational fashion.
Yes.
And the people that use cannabis recreational still use it for medicinal purposes.
Yes. But we gotta make sure that we pay attention to this going forward, because by the federal level saying that they're gonna schedule it to 3, will they allow states to have both recreational and medicinal? And the only reason why I point that out, you already seen of the 37 states that have recreational and medicinal any state that goes in to, basically announce, hey, we want recreational, their state's attorney is automatically pulling the recreational back already. That's
You
happening
mean
right
the
now.
medicinal back?
No, the recreational. They leaving the medicinal and
they're
pulling the
pulling the
recreational
recreational
back.
back.
And that's the only reason why I bring that up. Are they anticipating that we're going to go to Schedule 3 and they're eliminating the recreational already? And then for states like us, we talked about this. It's already here. How you going to pry that out my hand?
You can't. Well, first of all,
Well,
you're
it
not
started
rolling
medicinal
nothing back.
first.
I mean, that right there, you're going to get a fight.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a fight among the people.
Yep.
Because that's like basically saying, well, how do I describe this? That's like saying, here, man, here's $1,000, and then now I'm going to try to snatch that $1,000 back. You're going to be in a hell of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be trying to take that grand up out your hand. You're
Yeah.
going to be like, hey, man,
Yeah.
you gave this to me, and I'm keeping it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's part of what I wanted to point out, because local, state, city, they say one thing, federal say something else. And then you got this political environment where the person that's actually in the seat is making an interpretation, and that's pretty much what they're going to put in place. Ron DeSantis over in Florida.
Well, I mean, I agree with
Those
you.
states are a little different here.
We're too progressive.
We're too and like he said, the medicinal's been around for so long that it's associated with compassion.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for compassion.
And you got to keep
You know what I'm
in
saying?
mind.
So without that, you lose compassion.
And
No,
you got to
I
keep
love
in
it.
mind what even sparked our movement back in 1996. It was the AIDS epidemic that sparked this movement for medical cannabis in the state of California. So we have to be very careful and understand why the compassion, as Mark has so eloquently put, the compassion that a lot of these local officials, state officials begin to try to understand, like, wait a minute, this is an alternative medicine for the sick and dying. Why would we take this from them when they have been accessing this for so many years? So we have to understand that fight becomes larger than life when you try to roll back a state that has had it since 1996.
Right.
Right.
You know, you understand what I'm saying? You look at what is going on with the abortion law.
That's
Look
a great
what
point.
kind of battle. And I use that as an example because on one hand, Keith is talking about what they basically saying they're going to do. They could do with cannabis what they did with the abortion law.
Right.
But look at what kind of battle that
They're going
these
through.
states and cities and everybody's going through in lawsuits in Supreme Court now having to juggle with this situation with abortion. You know, and to take away the right of a woman to decide what to do with her body through legislation, to me, is the wrong way to go about it.
Agreed.
Because that is the least compassionate thing that you can do as a politician. I don't care what your belief is at the end of the day.
Right, because they're going to try to throw it on belief and religion.
Yeah,
and
they're going to
all
say
that.
religion, this and that. But there are so many variables with that. You know, just like the young lady that got on the stage at the DNC, who said
She got
at
raped.
12 years old she was raped by her stepfather. Now you gonna tell her she can't go get an abortion? She can't make the decision that she has to live with her stepfather's child?
Yeah.
Come on, that don't even make sense. So there are a lot of these cases and a lot of these situations, unfortunately, that has happened in this world. And we, as one men and lawmakers, to me, don't have a right to tell a woman what she could do with her body.
Well, no reason.
The same way you don't have a right to tell me what kind of medication I can have to help me through whatever I'm dealing with.
Right. Well, you know what? And that's a really, really good point. And the main reason why we bring up local and federal laws, because as an entrepreneur, when you go into these ventures, you're going to invest a lot of money into it. And if you don't really have a climate of what that political environment is, like one of the things I always commend you for is just the political networks that you have and being able to pick a phone up and say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with what's going on. If an entrepreneur doesn't have that level of connection, you basically saying, hey, I'm gonna interpret how it's written. We know that that's not the case. It's written one way, but how it's actually practiced and how they actually implement is another thing. That's really what I want to drive home for the entrepreneurs.
So what he's saying, to make it very clear, because I've experienced that real time. There's writing the law, and there's creating language to a law. And you can put that law on paper all day. But there's another thing that the paper and maybe the person that's putting that pen to paper doesn't understand.
There's an interpretation.
Yes.
It's practical application.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Because I could write it on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
That's my interpretation. Practical application is a whole nother thing. And politicians out there know what I'm talking about, or anybody that has dealt with policy and has written policy. You write a piece of policy, it's not perfect until you put it into practice. And then when you make it at practical application, you find out that that wasn't really practical what you wrote.
Right.
And that's why laws are always amended.
Right.
And they leave it open to amend. When we created Measure M for the city of Los Angeles and the social equity program, there was a open end part of it which allowed practical application to exist. Unfortunately, that open end policy of now looking at it and say it's not practical, we had the wrong people making the decisions on the changes, because the changes weren't even made practical after they understood that it wasn't practical. Certain things weren't practical, like the divider. I don't know if you guys really know some cities that have a divider that goes down the middle of a street, that divides the street. Mm-hmm. And in that divider is grass and trees growing in the middle of it. And some cities beautify their cities like that. Well, the problem is they considered that a park.
Right.
They considered that like a park.
So you can hang out.
Yeah, or whatever the case may be. So any city that had that became a sensitive use for you if you had a business anywhere close to it. Mm-hmm. Right. But that wasn't practical, because nobody's going to sit in the middle of a medium with cars speeding by hanging out. Nobody ever does that anywhere.
They did that for traffic control, but then they said that the overall use of it was a sensitive area because of the carbon that was being sucked up by the plants.
Exactly. But the problem is that they had it listed as a certain use.
Right.
When the use was only to divide a lane and to keep, as you say, carbon emitting in the air. It had nothing to do with kids running out there playing in the middle of the street in a center medium. Right. Or you gonna put a swing up in the center medium and be swinging on that thing while cars is going by. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't practical. So that's just one thing we that we use as an example of how when a law is written, the practical application part are two different things.
Right.
So when you think about cannabis for medicinal purposes, and then the fact that it's a Schedule I drug, that's not even practical.
It's not.
And the crazy part about it is that the federal government has done studies on that, showing the medicinal benefits, but always are denying the medicinal benefits.
Well, it's several reports that the federal government have made, and they literally hid the results of it because it didn't say it didn't fit their narrative, basically. Here's the other things, and again, we're just trying to guide entrepreneurs in some of that basic knowledge that you need to have before you go into actually opening a cannabis business.
So let me ask you this, Keith, when you say that, let's just kind of talk about this for a minute. Are you saying just say I'm an investor, I got a boatload of money, I want to come into the cannabis industry. Should I hesitate because it is a Schedule I drug?
Well,
should I not want to invest fully into this industry because of that? Even though when I look back at the history of California, cannabis has been legal in California since 1996. How many years is that?
Over 30 years.
You see what I'm saying? So over 30 years, people have been making money from cannabis. But you telling me as an investor I should hesitate on that?
Well, no. And that's the main reason why I want to capture this conversation in the right way, because if you look at the experience that you have on this panel here, this is information that a person should be looking at if they want to invest money. So going into these cannabis brands, we always tell you, look at the law of the land, whether it be federally or locally. The next thing we tell you is, well, what are the licensing requirements as far as where can I put my business at? You know, how close can it be to a church? How close can it be to a school? Then you also want to look at regulatory compliance as far as like the packaging and the safety information on it. The P65. Can any one of you guys share with people what the P65 is and why that's important for packaging regulations in California? Because I think that's something unique to us, correct?
I believe so.
It's something, I know it's not actually not unique to us, but it is something that we've had to battle with due to the fact that they started out wanting it in child-proof packaging, which it is. They wanted us to have it in an exit bag at first when you leave up out of the facility. But then again, they started looking at that. We started looking at that, and it made no sense. And it was an undue burden on dispensaries to have to purchase, because I remember all of these packaging companies came in and converged on the industry and said, oh, yeah, you guys have to have exit bags. So we're going to charge you guys an arm and a leg for these exit bags. And these exit bags were costing us almost $5 and $6 per bag that we literally had to give away to the customer, because if we tried to pass the costs on down, now here we talking cannabis is going to cost even more so, right? So it was a battle between what we were to do as retailers. And you got to keep in mind, once again, there's no such thing as practical application to that. Think about alcohol. When you walk into a liquor store, you put it in a brown paper bag and can walk out. Now these days, you don't even have to have it in a brown paper bag. You ain't even got to walk. You can walk out the liquor store with the bottle in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So you just think about how far the laws have came and how they've evolved, because they just literally did not make any sense in the time that they were created. Because sometimes we have a tendency of, what do I want? I don't want to say make a big deal out of nothing, but just kind of over exaggerate certain things that exist within society.
Mm-hmm.
And if cannabis is legal in the state of California and has been for over 30 years, why can't I walk out with my packaging in my hand? Why do I need a bag to put it in? Why should I have to pay extra for a bag? Why should the business person have to pay extra for a bag for an item this small that I could just walk out with in my hand, put in, a woman can put in her purse, you know what I'm saying? Or I put it wherever I put it when I get in my car. So,
but that brings up that next point of that political environment and your local council, your alderman person, the mayor. Their perception of the law is literally what's going to make it really difficult for more and more businesses to open up utilizing those laws.
the problem is they don't have no perception of the law. The lack of education within cannabis among legislators, among politicians, among the powers that be is so grossly lacking within their knowledge thereof, that how can you govern somebody and you don't even know what you governing? DCC out hiring social workers to work for the DCC. First of all, you asking a social worker, somebody who used to go into somebody's house and ridicule them and criticize them for how they house look or how they were raising their kids, and you want to hire that person to work in the DCC? How you think they gonna view cannabis if they view parenting
Negative.
a certain way?
Yeah.
Well, here again, we trying to make a job aid for the entrepreneur that wants to come into this business. And I guess we got to look at it from a standpoint like there's a sea of opportunities out there, right?
Okay, so step number one. Step number one, let's look at it like this. Step number one in wanting to enter into the cannabis business. First of all, find out what sector that you want to get into.
Yes,
Do you want to get
market
into
and
retail?
landscape.
Do you want to get into cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, delivery? First, you need to know where you want to go in the cannabis industry. Where do you think that your expertise within your life that you've had, or maybe you don't have any, and you don't know where you want to go? So here, for those that know where they want to go, pick your lane, go in it, and then begin to do the homework and the research. Those that don't know where they want to go, I could tell you the first thing not to go to, and that's retail. Stay away from retail, because retail ain't the place to be if you want to invest and make money. My thought would be going to cultivation, going to manufacturing, going to distribution or delivery. But as a retailer, I'm telling you, stay away, not unless you want to be burdened with a lot of ridiculous taxes in the cannabis industry. But if you do want to go into it and you know how to manage that because you have a great CPA and you're tax savvy and you understand retail, tax savvy, and you understand retail, then I say by all means, like I did, go into it, but go into it knowing what you're going to go into. Now, once you pick your sector, you now have to understand what type of capital do I need to get into this part of the business, and what should my startup capital look like?
Wait a minute, that's the last one. That's the last one. The next one after then what is your business strategy for you to get part of that market share? So say like if it's gonna be edibles or flour or whatever.
Well, no, the first thing, and you have to put those in perspective, because first of all, you're gonna need to know what part of the industry you're gonna be in.
Right.
Number two, then if you pick that one, you need to find a location after you've done your homework about the sector that you're gonna be in. You need to now find a location for that to go into, right?
Well, no. And see that's the one point that I wanted to point out. That's what DCR told us. That as soon as we want license, go find a location. But in reality, if you opening up a business, you looking at the business strategy saying, well, how much of this market share can I actually get? Is this so saturated that it's not worth me spending $1 in it? So I'm looking at it just from a business perspective of saying, well, what's my niche? What's going to make me go into this market and actually be successful?
But that's not practical. And it's good, like, once again, it look good on paper because you can put all that on paper. What makes it practical is what I'm getting ready to tell you, what I did, what Marco did, and what everyone should do when going into this industry. Because you never know what your niche is until you get into the industry and find out what space may be available during that time. Some people may say, well, no, we need to know beforehand. How you going to know beforehand if you don't get into it, right?
Yeah.
How you going to know how to swing a bat if you don't first get on the field, pick a bat up, get a ball out there and swing it to see how it swing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to get into the industry first, right? You look around, you scan the arena, the atmosphere, the players.
Yeah.
You see where everybody is. Once you actually get in and you are up and running and opening and you have a business going, you could pick your niche. Because if you pick it beforehand, I promise you it will not go right because you won't really know if that's where you really should be. And then you're going to try to take a round thing and stick it in a square peg, and that's not going to work. As a real cannabis player,
and I'm going to add to that. I just want to add that what I get from that is like paralysis due to over-analysis. And I think that's just a problem in general. That's like jumping in the fire. Too many of us analyze and want to have perfection and think we know what to expect by just dissecting it from afar. You got to be in it. You got to be in it.
Well,
It's like cultivation.
I agree with all three of you
So-
guys, but
so hold
I'm
on.
saying
It's
that
like
you got to have a plan.
You
If
do
it's
have to have a
revenue
plan.
minus expense, well, how much revenue am I trying to generate, and what is my expenses? So
Well, see, that's
I think we all saying
I
the
think-
same thing
well,
as far as starting slow.
Well, to be truly honest with you, this is the thing. For a person that's been doing this since 2003, I graduated high school in
Hit your
2001.
thing, man. That's you help you think right, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
graduated high school in 2001, was already involved in stores in 2003. Do you know that none of us could tell you what our projections would be?
At all.
We didn't know that we would make $1 million a month. We didn't know that we would make $500,000 a month. We didn't know that we would see 1,000, 2,000 people a day. But what we did know is that we love what we do. So we did it. That's the problem. Is going into it thinking that you can project those things.
And
you
can't.
cannot project it.
You can't.
The history of this has been that way. We've been in many stores, yourself, brother, myself. I've been in stores that have accumulated and made all kinds. I couldn't tell you. I could tell you that if I got 300 people and our average is $35 an eighth,
That's what we
then
talking
I
about.
can tell you more or less what
How
we
much
would
money
make.
you make.
But I
Yeah.
couldn't guarantee you.
But no. I think
Everything
we're
on
saying
the-
the same thing, just
And he
projection
could,
of
but-
what
but-
people you think going to come into the door, because you
understand.
got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
but even then, this has been this is a tailor-made industry.
Yes, it is.
It's tailor-made,
Exactly.
block for block, street per street,
Yeah.
city per city,
Oh, agree.
alley per alley. It's tailor-made. Wherever you go, you got to get to know where you at.
But
Orange
that
Kush,
already
new baby,
changes-
is coming to you.
Wait a minute.
It's
That
coming
already
to your
changes the
front door.
dynamic of
That
how
orange, baby,
things
that
go.
orange.
So Marco, I agree 100% with you saying that it's tailor made. But even in the hood, you knew if I could move a half a pound, I could move a pound. You knew where you could break down something, and you had to move.
No,
a
you
unit.
didn't. No, you didn't.
We
And
just
let me
did it.
tell you. Let me tell you why. You knew that stuff was being sold. Crack cocaine was being sold. You knew if you got an 8-ball and you knew that this neighborhood was popping for cocaine sales, you knew you could get an 8-ball and get off of it, right?
Yep.
Everybody, I mean, you knew that. That would, but the person that first tried to open up that market did not have a clue
Not at all.
what to even start with, what would sell,
Yep.
how it would sell.
Yep.
There were no projections on that
was not.
until the block got hot
Yep.
and started rolling.
Yep.
The same with this cannabis industry. I will agree with you, Keith, that we now have projections. But one thing Marco said, it wasn't until I got 200-300 patients coming through my store, people coming through my store, there was no guarantee 200 or 300 people was going to walk through his door. It may have been more guaranteed back then than it is now.
And see, that's what I
Because
wanted to talk
it
about, the
beco-
collective versus just hoping somebody coming to your door. You knew the people on your collective. You knew their habits. You knew when they were buying. And it's like
But
we
it wasn't
lost
that. What
part.
I'm saying is this didn't come until after time.
Right,
So
right.
when I first opened up my door,
And some of
Yes.
us, we have a length. We come from a different place because we have a lengthy amount of experience in the store industry. I explained that to a gentleman earlier that I was talking to from Tyson 2.0. He's a gentleman that owns a manufacturing company up north. Donnie, shout out. I was talking to him and I was just explaining that to people. This is a new industry. To some of us, it is not.
Not a new industry.
You understand?
Not by
it's
far.
people have come in to try to reinvent the wheel, and that's why everyone is failing. Everyone wants to reinvent the wheel. Like he said earlier, some of us been making bread already, but you want to come in and tell us how we did things wrong.
Exactly.
And by telling us that, you're actually doing everything wrong. That's why no one's making anything. And when you're
Exactly.
speaking about projections, you're right. Like Virgil said, you can project today, but that's like a conversation I had with you on the phone a couple weeks back when I told you, well, there's a market cap now. It's almost like sports teams.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like when we started, there was no
Market
there's
cap.
no cap.
Right. There was
There's
no
there's
ceiling.
there's no I can't spend owner this year, you can only spend 50 million on your players. We didn't have that.
Nah, we
But
did.
the way the game is today, there's caps now. So most people go into it the same way, like I explained to you, because of the friends and the community that I come from. So I understood the mentality. I had certain friends that would open up smoke shops, but they knew their cap. But that's why they would just open up a certain amount. They
To
knew
limit.
that by opening up a smoke shop, the best I'm going to make by operating it the way I'm going to operate it
20,
is
30%.
15,000, 20,000 a month.
Right.
Right? Of my gross revenue or net, whatever, right? Oh, but what do? I open up 20 of them.
Right.
And that's how I'm going to get my bread.
And that's how I get my bread. We used to be able to thrive off of one store.
One shop.
You see
had
what I'm
one
saying?
shop,
so,
it was popping and
there
cracking.
is a projection now because now you have to understand there's a market cap.
Well, so wait a minute. Look. So number 3, developing a effective business strategy. That is an effective business strategy, and that's literally what I want you guys to share. Versus what people think versus what you've experienced in your time.
Yeah.
So my thought in that, and I agree with everything that Marco has said because he understands it from the ground floor and the roots of this. You have to be in the trenches. You know what I'm saying? A person can tell you everything that they want to tell you, but if they ain't did it, they can't tell you. If you ever hear them sports analysts are always talking, and then they got one sports analyst that's sitting at the table with them that ain't never played basketball or never played football, and you see how they turn to them and say, man, how can you say that? You ain't never did this. So you don't know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he got to sit there with a smug on his face and shut up because it's very true. You don't know what a hit feel like if you ain't been on that field and got hit. Mm-hmm. You don't know what to expect when you run and catch that touchdown or make your first 3-point shot out there on the field and how that feels. Or you win your first gold medal in the Olympics or any medal in the Olympics. Or even fact that you even made it to the Olympic trial finals. You never know how that feels. Like my coach used to tell me when I was running track and field. He said, I could train you how to run. He says, but when it comes to the CIF prelims and the CIF finals and the state prelims and the state finals, I can't tell you that. I can't give you that experience.
Never been there.
That's something you're going to have
Go to
to
him.
experience for yourself.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't did it,
yeah.
then you can't tell me about it. So that's like somebody that ain't never been in the cannabis industry, lawyer or accountant or somebody with projections to come in to tell me how to run my business or how they think my business should run. I'm going to look at them and laugh at them and say, man, you don't know diddly squat about what I'm doing. I know this stuff because I've been there. I've done that. I opened up a store in 2004 in the city of Compton, and I ran that shop from 2004 to 2008 before the raids came in. But just running that business, I opened that door. I didn't know who was going to walk through my door.
Not at all.
I made $130-something my first day in business. $130-something my first day in business.
I used to make $150 a week.
Come on,
until my shit was booming.
Oh man, you know what? But you didn't know. you spent all this money to open. Look, you spent all this money to open up this shop. You done flooded it with weed, and then next thing you know, boom, you getting $150 on your first day, hoping that it would increase from then on. So yeah, I mean, this is just something that.
What were some of the overcoming industry challenges that, I mean, you've been in retail a long time, so like clearly identify a challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Let me see. The challenge that I had, one was getting people to understand, and I got to take you all the way back.
Okay.
Getting people to understand that this was a legal business and it was safe to come into. How did I overcome that challenge? Through education, by showing them. I used to do stuff. I have friends that work for the Compton Police Department, the Compton Sheriff Department, right? I remember one of my partners came in one time and he walked through the door and there were people in the waiting room waiting to go in. And he said, freeze, everybody on the wall. I turned and looked at this nigga, bro. I turned and looked at him and say, this fool right here. And then everybody is like, they like a rabbit or a cat that just got scared by a bear or something. If freeze, everybody did this like, oh man, it was funny as heck, but it wasn't funny because
Yeah,
this
dog,
is
it was serious
spoke.
for some folks.
talking early in legalization,
Is that
right?
you getting an F.
And then they see me go over there and slap 5 and hug, and we laugh it out and hug it out, and they like, whoo,
Right.
we thought you was coming to arrest us. I said, hey, see, that's the problem with y'all thinking.
Yeah.
This is legal.
Yeah.
You see how these guys came in here and ain't nobody going to jail?
Yeah.
This is legal, right? So overcoming was continuous education.
Yeah.
And every Saturday, my doctor used to come to my shop. Dr. Tollett. He, passed away, but Dr. Tollett was a doctor that I used, a black doctor. Dr. Tollett and Dr. Austin, which was 2 doors down from me. I would do every Saturday before the shop opened. He would come in, and I would have potential patients come in that wanted to get recommendations. And he would sit down and do examinations and then, give everybody their recommendation. And during the process, I would be teaching and educating. So I would have 20, 30 people sitting inside of the second room of my dispensary with chairs and tables and papers to fill out and everything before they go see the doctor. Mm-hmm. And this was my time to educate people, to let them know what their rights were, if they ever got pulled over with their cannabis, how to travel with their cannabis back then, because back then you had to keep it in the trunk of your car. Mm-hmm. It had to be sealed up in the package that you purchased it. Mm-hmm. There were certain things that we had to abide by. Yep. Now it's different. You get pulled over and you got cannabis in the car, and the police say, I smell cannabis. Okay, so what? That officer now can't touch you. But anyway, getting back to what we were really talking about, to how to overcome that. Yeah. That was how I overcame that. Yeah. There were different challenges that we would have early on in that industry. How to streamline our medical records. How do we lock away our medical records because of HIPAA. Mm-hmm. And when the government came in, and they began to ask us about our medical records, we couldn't divulge those medical records to them, and we couldn't have a conversation with them about our patients because we would be breaking the HIPAA laws, right? And so a lot of the feds, when they came in, they never touched those medical records because they understood the law.
Wow.
Right.
They did not touch our medical records at all. They didn't take none of our patient files. Yeah. At least none of the raids that I was in, they didn't take any of my patients' files.
No, not at all.
And it led me to believe that they understood the law enough to know that these patients were protected by HIPAA.
Mm. Yeah, they weren't worried about the patients.
And they wouldn't arrest patients either. Mm. Like, they didn't arrest patients. You know what I'm saying? I got raided. I had one of my managers.
I had a couple people arrested, but it was only because
they had a warrant?
Yeah, because they will like restrain you.
Yeah. And, if you have a warrant,
and then if you got the warrant, and I had an old dude that came shopping. And
what they will do is detain you and check you. They may run you back. Some do, some don't waste the time, right?
Right.
But there are some that would do that, and if they let local law enforcement lead the raid or come in, 9 times out of 10, your local law enforcement would do that. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. If you got raided by the feds, they didn't give a damn about you having a warrant in the city or the state. They didn't give a shit about that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I was in the feds and I had an outstanding warrant in Humboldt County.
Yeah.
And they was not letting me out of jail to go deal with that warrant.
Yeah.
Now I had to, I think it was one of them forms.
Yeah.
That ended up getting that warrant taken off, and I didn't have to do no time or nothing. It was bottom line, it disappeared. But the feds was like, shoot, we ain't about to let you out.
Yeah.
And go deal with it. So they don't care about stuff like that.
And even locally, to add to that, if it's a local, like a Van Nuys situation that I had when Van Nuys came after me in Van Nuys, I was asking why they left so many things behind is because their station couldn't house all the products, and they didn't want to have to go take it to LA.
Exactly. So
So they
then-
left it. So they left you with a bunch of product because they're like, yo, we can only take only enough evidence because our we don't have enough space.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you what began to become a problem in the industry that we had to navigate around. A lot of us did. As time progressed on, dealing with owners that own property that we wanted to lease their property to run a cannabis business. So we was met with a lot of resistance to a point where there was a lot of people that couldn't even get into a location because nobody would lease to them because it was cannabis.
Right.
And so we even still have that problem
Right
today.
now today.
Like after 30 years of legalization, you still got an owner that says, "Oh wow, cannabis,"
Yeah.
like
So-
it's taboo or something.
So let's explain why. So one of the reasons why, if you are a landlord and you have a federal loan and you rent to someone with cannabis, that means now I'm making money from cannabis for this federal loan. And again, that shows that discrepancy between that federal and local law.
But you know, at the end of the day, to me, that's still like ridiculous and preposterous.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if that man only owns a cannabis business or
Right.
I'm in the real estate too,
Right.
or I got money coming from here. But just because I run a cannabis shop, you want to peg me based on that cannabis shop. But I could have all my money in the real estate. So the money I'm paying you for this building ain't got nothing to do with cannabis.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we only speculate, or people like that are only speculating. The bottom line, it was always lack of education because when I call landlords up, and I've done this for other people, I've called landlords up to rent their facility to run a cannabis business, and the first thing, no. But then as I would begin to go on, because I never believed in taking no for an answer, and I begin to educate this owner and say, hey, I'm a licensed owner and operator, licensed by the city and the state. I said, and I help craft the policy here. I said, so you're not dealing with just some,
Rudy
stoner
Poo.
that wants to run a cannabis business. You dealing with somebody who's very educated within what they're doing. And I'm going to respect the rules of the game as long as I'm in the cannabis business as a licensed cannabis operator. So once I begin to really throw that out there and tell them to even check my resume, then now they feel a little different. Well, wait, now they're open to listen. Well, the last time I had somebody, because there were people that said this, I had somebody in cannabis, they did this and trashed the place and blah, blah, blah. Owners are going to have irresponsible people, whether you got a residence that they living in, apartment building, you're going to have some that's going to take care of it, some that's going to trash it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
at
then
the
there's a
end of
catch
the
to
day-
that too, because many landlords also sometimes like for cannabis people to come in because we renovate a lot more.
We
Right.
cleaned
So we'd
it up
leave their place even better than we
what
found
did.
it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So there is the catch-22 where you got the
Yeah, you do have the ones that really, and they've had a good experience
Yeah.
by owners and operators
Yeah.
versus the other ones that had terrible experience. So that's another thing. Another thing that I think that were challenges back then, and then I'm going to fast forward one more back then, and then I'm going to fast forward today, is the quantities that was sold back then. And the reason why I say that is because you were able to buy a half a pound back then. 8 ounces was the limit that you could have if you have a medical record. Medical recommendation. Now, I don't believe that has changed in the state
it's
of California, or it
half
hasn't.
a pound in the car if you have a wreck, a quarter pound to buy in the store.
You see what I'm saying? So that's 3/4 of a pound. If you even just got a half a pound on you plus another quarter pound, that's 3/4 of a pound that you could have in your possession.
Yeah.
But going back with the recommendation, but going back to that was, how do you deal with that? We didn't know whether a person could buy a quarter pound or a half a pound and be able to leave, come back 2 days later, buy another half pound, quarter pound, whatever. So there were some of the challenges of the amount of medicine. And then you had people back then, because there were a limit on stores. There were not as many stores as there were back then. So there were people coming from the IE, and they would come out here once a month, and they would purchase a quarter pound from me, or purchase a half a pound from me,
Yeah.
so that they don't have to keep running back and forth
Right.
every week to re-up on their cannabis. So that was, there were just a lot of little minor challenges, edibles, concentrates.
Yeah.
Those were a sticky topic.
Yeah, because ours were more our shelf life wasn't what it is now, but which is why we had better baked goods back then as well, because we would actually had red velvets, and we would actually have like actual baked goods, because it would be able to sell fast enough within that week.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Now you have to have things with preservatives, like anything in food.
So, Marco, another thing I want to point out about that is when you look at the recreational versus the medicinal, recreational packages, 100 milligrams, medicinal, 1,000 milligrams. So even me having that medical rec allows me to get more, concentrated, potent items.
Absolutely.
Now,
and so just one thing, now fast forward, and you look at the challenges of the day. Unfortunately, there are a lot more challenges today than there was back in the early days.
Yeah.
Very, very what we would consider few and minute challenges of today. But now you got the challenges of taxes.
Yeah.
You got the challenges of stiff regulations. You got the challenges of shops opening up around you, but you the only one regulated.
Right.
You got the challenges is that you got to follow the rules, but the other cultivator is guerrilla growing, and he ain't following no
testing.
rules. Packaging, testing. We have so many challenges.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
and that's
we have
where
to
I think
overcome.
it sucks, because at the end of the day, it was all even. It's almost like complaining, being an athlete, that, oh, he took steroids, but it's like everybody else did.
Right, right.
You understand what I'm saying? And back then, when you were in this game, we were all on steroids. So it was all even.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It didn't become even until you go, oh, well, you know what? You guys can do things the legal way, but we're also not going to punish the ones that can't, that's been doing it the way you've been doing it. So
Exactly.
I feel like that's really what happened, because it was all even playing field. There was nothing different. No one was doing nothing different.
Which is a huge disadvantage.
It's
a huge disadvantage for the operators that are trying their best to follow the guidelines.
Right.
And then you got Joe Blow down the street who ain't following one guideline and don't have any intent to
even try to.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
puts us in a bad situation where we all been players at this shit at some point in time in our lives.
Yeah.
So we feel some kind of way when we look at dude down the street. We understand him.
I was about to say, yeah.
We understand him, but we also feel some kind of way because we have chosen to play by the rules, and the fact that that person is not playing by the rules, it impacts us in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we feel some kind of way. But the hustle side of us can't really be mad at him because he getting it however he
getting
can
it
get
however he getting it. And then on top of that, sometimes some of those people feel like they deserve it more than the one who's even got the license.
Exactly.
Some of these people who are even operating don't even deserve it. Right. And just because Joe is up the street doing what he's doing, Joe could have been doing this for 30 years.
Come on.
Actually try to get a license, also got denied. And he feels like, I deserve this. So I'm not going to lose I've been doing this for so long. I'm not going to stop now because you didn't decide to accept me to be someone to try to do it the right way. Because at the end of the day, people are being selected. So who's to tell that Joe and Joe didn't deserve it?
Exactly.
Because you're selecting. And people like Verge deserves it. People like me, I deserved it, but I got rejected. Yeah. And then I could name a bunch of people who in my head, I scratch my head wondering how the hell and why the hell.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
But I think people come into this industry, they don't know all of this is going on. And I think just by us peeling back the layers and kind of giving them a bird's eye view to, hey, this is a complex industry that has a lot of moving parts. And, you want to lean to some of the people that have been in it for, as long as a lifetime. Well, 30 years is a lifetime.
We definitely not going to be able to get through this in this episode. This is going to have to be a continuance and another part and another part, because what you just said, Keith, as soon as you bring up one question, man, it opens up a Pandora box because of how intricate, complex, but very simple this industry is. And I say complex but simple. This is a very simple and practical industry.
Yep.
This is not rocket scientists that are operating in this industry, and you don't need a master's degree or a BA or anything to be in this industry. You just got to be able to understand the industry that you're operating in. And the problem is that the people that come into this industry know nothing about this industry.
No, nothing at all.
And have not experienced anything. And it's like saying, man, I'm getting ready to go play basketball, but I don't even know who Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan is.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how dare you, or Dr. J, or any of the legends that have been in the game, AIs. But you coming to play basketball, how so? You know what I'm saying? Because you're supposed to, if you trying to be the one to hone in on your craft or make this what you do, then you got to know who the players were before you. That's like coming in the rap game and you don't know who Cool Herc is. You didn't know who all of the legends that were before that was in the game. Or you coming to the West Coast, but you ain't never heard of NWA or know who they are. Or Cube or Snoop or Dre somebody. Or all of these people that have kept the West Coast alive with rap. Oh, you coming in and you only know Kendrick Lamar, and Kendrick Lamar was the one who invented rap for the West Coast, because you that out of touch with what's going on in the industry. So I say all that to say is that in this industry, man, there are a lot of people that have converged and came in on this industry that know nothing about it.
Right.
And so therefore they end up, one, like Marco said, failing, or meet a bunch of challenges.
Yes. And to say one thing that I wanted to say earlier, I'm just going to have to run it back real quick. Yeah. You said about investors. I'm going to say something to investors. Investors, if you want to get in the game and get your hands dirty. That's the problem with investing these days, is that everybody thinks this is passive income. You guys think you could just throw a whole bunch of money into the game and let everybody else run your business and you just collect. And then you're mad when you can't collect because you don't know nothing. You didn't do it yourself. No blood, sweat, and tears. This is not a game where you just throw your bread and you hope that it comes back. If you're not on the ground floor grinding your damn self, you ain't getting it. I promise you. It's not going to work. It don't work like that. There's only certain individuals, and I know a few, that are doing it that way, but they really, 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 truly developed a system. And they were really able to have a team that followed them per location and implemented the same system. Until you could get to that point, don't try it. You got to start phase one. Develop a system in one place. Go hard. You got to be there. You got to be there. Yeah. The problem is everybody's hands off. Nobody was hands off when we was coming up.
Nah,
we were the janitors. We were the security guards. We were the bud tenders. Yep. We were the secretaries. Mm-hmm. We were the accountants. I mean, you name it.
Yep. So look, I want you to keep the camera on Marco as he's saying this. That's the develop effective business strategies. Exactly what he's pointing out. Keep on.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? You can't come in here with this hands off attitude, grinding. When me and Verge took California Cannabis in 2019, nobody was seeing us.
Come on.
But and here's another thing. When you're willing to work and you're willing to put in the grind, you don't worry about people who jump your ship. Because you can still man your ship. The problem is a lot of you guys, all this the massive amount of staff, all these part-timers, we come from the days where people work 17 hours a shift. I used to have a crew of just 3 or 4 solid people who could hold me down all the time. All the time. Not a crew of 50, and at any given time, they come and go and they come and go. But at the end of the day, what we learned is by being on the ground floor and us grinding ourselves, jump the ship. I'm still sailing.
Come on, man.
You understand what I'm saying? Like you could jump off.
I'm
sailing.
Times, yeah.
I'm gonna put my shit up. Oh, I'm hungry. I'm gonna do my little shit.
So how many times somebody didn't quit at the last minute and say I can't make it, and here I'm pulling up to the store.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'll run the shift.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I'm there from whatever time that is, 3 to 10 o'clock at night,
Yep.
running the store. Like Marco say, you got to be willing to get your hands in it. I used to have people all the time. They be like, boss man, why you sweeping the front? That's what I do. Or why you sweeping the curve, and why you doing this, or washing and wiping the windows? Come on, man. Like Marco say, I'm just a little different. If you pass by 7415 Crenshaw Boulevard, right there just above Florence at my California Cannabis store on a Sunday, I'm out there with my broom right before it's time for me to go to church. And as I'm letting my employee in, I'm out there sweeping my front and my curb in my church clothes, handling my business because, one, I respect the community that I operate in, because I want to be a clean business that is operating in there, are surrounded in the community, because a lot of owners don't even respect the community that they operate in.
They have no idea.
Yeah,
They're disconnected.
Yeah, so I'm out there myself. I could get an employee to do it, but let my employee do what they do. I'm going to do what I do, right? Sweep up that curve and make it look real good for the community.
Yep.
And for me as a business to say I'm not an eyesore in this community, because not just this community, I'm not an eyesore in my community. And I have to be very clear about that. I operate in the communities that I can call mine. Why? Because the people that are in that community look just like me and are just like me. And when I say look like me, it's not necessarily my color, but look like me in the mindset. Because you can have a bunch of people that are the same color in your community and they ain't the same as you. You know what I'm saying? Mindset ain't the same. Mindset somewhere else, all screwed up or whatnot.
And there's something powerful about there's something powerful about leading by example. You understand what I'm saying? Like I remember in the movie Trojan, Brad Pitt, when they got him out the tent, or he had to go talk to the king or something, and he rolled up to the king, and he said, won't it? He looked at the king after he killed the dude. He like sliced the dude. He like did that move where he jumped and killed the big dude by slicing him down the neck, and then he was walking away from the war because they called him from he was having sex. He was in the tent sleeping or whatever, and he just got up. And then when he was walking, he passed by the king and he goes, won't it be the day that a king fights his own wars? So all I'm saying is, man has always gravitated towards seeing a king that's willing to actually go to war, and your troops will go to war harder. You know what I mean? When you're the king that's just getting fat and eating, and your troops don't see that you do shit, just know you're gonna have a lazy ass team too. Yeah. There's nobody there. If you ain't willing to do it, they ain't gonna do it like that either.
Is leading by
example. What I'm saying? And leading by example has always been crucial. We've turned into this industry should remain mom and pop. We're not there to exploit it the way that it's exploited.
And I agree, because that's just like the wineries. The wineries are still mom and pop.
You see what I'm saying?
When you think about it, they're not conglomerates. You know, when you go to Napa Valley, or you go to up the 101, going up Northern California, Mendocino and Humboldt, those are little small wineries that are mom and pop, but they pushing out the best wine that California has had and the world has tasted.
Yes.
So, I agree.
Look, I want to close out that talking point, but I think it was really fantastic, the aspects that you guys brought out for young entrepreneurs looking to launch and run a successful business. And what I hear you guys saying is lead by example, respect the community, be present, and develop your business strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on.
And that's just the beginning. So due to time restraints and that is at the end of our show today, we're going to pick back up next Token Tuesday, and we're going to finish up what we doing. We still got time, or am I tripping? Yeah, it's 9:26. Yeah. Our time is over with, brother. So anyway, welcome. Thank you for coming in to Token Tuesday, where we have real cannabis issues and real cannabis talk from real cannabis players. I got Keith to my left, Marco to my right. We would love to carry this conversation on with you, and we will be back on next Token Tuesday. We're going to pick up where Keith left off at, because Keith was too high to pay attention to the time. Let me get that lighter. Too high to pay attention to the time and knew that we overstayed our stay here. But look, we love what we do.
Yeah.
And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And we real players at what we do.
Yep.
Until then, we'll come tune in. Make sure that you subscribe and hit that like button and subscribe to California Cannabis on YouTube. Subscribe to our California Cannabis. You can even download our app. And our app is you can find it on Apple
Store,
or you can find it for the Android.
Yep.
Download our app, get onto our podcast, and make it happen. We appreciate
and coming by that
y'all.
Cali Kush.
Oh yeah, and come by that Cali Kush, that orange, the bomb diggity.
Tasty.
Until then, we holla at y'all. Peace out.
Yep.
Token Tuesday. It's what we do. We just sit around, smoke a pound, and talk about what we do in the cannabis world. We gon' let you know how the business go on a brand new show. Token Tuesday. Show you how to